Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Deep Dive. We know you are all here because you want to get better at English.
That's right.
Whether it's for work or for travel.
Or just for yourself.
You guys sent us this great resource called Improve Your English, and we're going to take a deep dive into it today.
We are going to go through it and pull out some really actionable strategies.
Yeah, and try to give you guys some real tips to improve your English.
Exactly.
I think we have 10 in total that we're going to go through.
That's right, 10 key strategies.
And I think they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
What I really like about this resource is just that it takes this approach of it's not just about learning grammar and vocabulary.
Right.
It's more about building these habits.
Yeah, it's more holistic.
Yeah, a holistic approach to English.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one we're going to jump into is immersion.
Okay, let's talk about that.
So I think this can sound a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, it can sound like being thrown in the deep end.
Right, oh my gosh, I have to immerse myself.
Right.
But the source makes this really good analogy, which is think about how a baby learns.
Right.
A baby doesn't learn by opening a grammar book.
No, they don't.
They're just constantly surrounded by the language.
Right.
And they kind of just absorb it naturally.
Yeah.
So if you think about it that, it kind of makes sense.
Exactly. And it makes sense from a neuroscience perspective. Our brains are wired to learn through repetition.
Right.
And through constant input. So when we are exposed to something new repeatedly, our brain begins to
Adapt,
exactly. And actually what it does is it strengthens those neural pathways related to that particular skill.
Right.
So in this case, English.
So what are some practical ways that you can immerse yourself?
Well, the resource gives a lot of good suggestions.
Yeah.
One of them is to actively engage with movies and TV shows.
Yes, I like that.
And they have a great idea for this too. They suggest starting with subtitles in your native language.
Oh, yeah.
If you need to.
That's smart.
Yeah, and then progress to English subtitles, and then eventually no subtitles at all.
Right.
So it's like a gradual process of training your ear to become more accustomed to the sounds of English.
Like a step-by-step approach.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you're not overwhelmed right away.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I'm watching this and I don't understand anything.
Yeah.
But you're still seeing the words.
You're still making those connections between the spoken word and the written word, and that's so important for your brain to start forging those pathways.
I think another good one, too, is podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Podcasts are fantastic.
Because, there's so many free podcasts out there.
Exactly.
And you can kind of listen to them passively, even if you're doing other things.
Absolutely.
Like if you're cooking.
Or commuting.
Or going for a walk.
Even working out.
Yeah, just have it on in the background.
Yeah.
And that way you're still getting that input.
Exactly. And what I love about this suggestion is that it doesn't require you to set aside specific time.
Right. Like study time. It's just about integrating English into your daily life.
Yes.
In a way that feels natural and organic.
I also like the suggestion of reading.
Of course, reading is essential.
You can read books, you can read articles, you can even read comic books.
Yeah, absolutely anything that interests you.
Anything.
The key is to find material that you enjoy so it doesn't feel like a chore.
Right.
Because the more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to stick with it.
Right.
And that's really what we are trying to do. Here we are trying to build those habits.
So the key takeaway with immersion is that daily exposure helps your brain to process the language more naturally.
Yes, it becomes more automatic over time.
Right.
And this is because your brain is recognizing patterns in the language. It's getting used to the rhythm.
Right.
And it starts to develop a more intuitive understanding of how sentences are structured.
Okay, so we've talked about immersing yourself now. Let's talk about speaking every day.
Okay, that's a big one. That's a really big one. And I think a lot of people who are learning English probably feel very nervous about this.
Yeah, it's completely understandable.
It's understandable.
We all have that fear, of making mistakes.
Especially in front of other people.
Of not sounding perfect, exactly.
Right.
But the truth is, the more you practice, the more confident you will become.
Right.
And you can't expect to become a confident speaker without actually speaking.
Yeah.
So it's really important to just dive in and start practicing.
So the source gives a lot of good suggestions here. So what's one?
One that I really like is the idea of talking to yourself.
Oh, that's a great one.
It might sound a little strange at first.
It does sound a little strange.
But it's a really effective way to practice without any pressure.
I like it.
You can literally just talk to yourself about anything. Describe what you're doing.
Narrate your day.
Exactly.
What you're thinking.
Yeah, or even practice conversations in your head.
Yeah.
Imagine you're talking to someone and go through the dialogue in English.
I love that.
It's a great way to just get comfortable with the sounds of the language and to build that fluency.
So you're basically like creating an inner monologue, but in English.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Another suggestion is to find language partners online.
Yeah.
There are so many great apps and websites these days.
Yeah, there are.
Where you can connect with native English speakers from all over the world.
And it's good because you can help them learn your language.
It's a great exchange.
Yeah.
You can help them with your native language, and they can help you with English.
And you both get better.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
If you happen to have friends who are English speakers,
yes,
that's a really good one.
Just ask them
to speak with you.
Yeah, to practice with you.
Right.
Even just a short conversation can make a big difference.
Yeah, and I think it's important to emphasize here that, like, it's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. Mistakes are inevitable.
Everyone makes mistakes.
And they are actually a really important part of the learning process.
Right.
Every time you make a mistake, you are learning something new.
Right.
So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and practice speaking, even if you don't feel 100% confident.
The key takeaway here is don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Just practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely. And prioritize that consistent speaking practice.
All right, so our third method is think in English.
Okay, this is an interesting one.
So this is all about training your brain to actually think in English, as opposed to what many learners do, which is they think in their native language.
Right.
And then they translate it into English.
Exactly. And that translation process can really slow you down.
That's an extra step that you don't need. It's like an extra hurdle.
Yeah.
So how can you train yourself to think in English?
Well, the resource suggests a really simple exercise.
Okay, what is it?
You can just start by describing your surroundings in English.
In your head?
Yeah, just in your mind.
Oh, I like that.
So for example, instead of seeing a table and thinking in your native language, you would think table in English.
Table?
Yes.
Okay.
Or if you're walking down the street and you see a dog.
Dog.
Exactly. You just think dog in English.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's a simple shift, but it can have a huge impact on your fluency.
Yeah.
Because you're basically cutting out that translation step.
Right.
And allowing your brain to process information more directly in English.
And the more you do this,
yes,
the faster you'll get at it.
Exactly. It becomes more automatic over time.
Right.
And your spoken English will start to sound much more natural and fluent.
So the key takeaway here is that if you can train your brain to think in English, you'll be able to speak and understand much faster.
Much more quickly and effortlessly. Exactly.
Our fourth strategy is all about vocabulary.
All right, vocabulary is essential.
Yeah, of course, you can't speak English if you don't know any words.
That's true.
So the source gives a lot of good advice on how to build your vocabulary effectively.
Yeah, and one of the key points they make is that it's not just about memorizing lists of words.
Right.
It's about learning words in context.
Yes.
So instead of just trying to memorize the definition of a word,
right,
try to see how it's used in a sentence, in a paragraph, in a real-life situation.
I think that makes such a big difference.
It does, because it helps you understand the nuances of the word.
Yes.
The connotations, you know, the different ways it can be used.
And it helps you to actually use it correctly.
Exactly.
If you just memorize a word and its definition, you might not actually know how to use it properly in a sentence.
Exactly. You might not know the grammatical structures that it typically appears in or the prepositions that go with it.
Right.
So it's really important to see the word in action.
The source also mentions this technique called spaced repetition.
Yes, spaced repetition is a really powerful technique.
Yeah. And there are even apps that can help you with this.
Right, like Anki or Quizlet.
Yeah, have you ever used those?
I have, yeah. They're very helpful. And how spaced repetition works is that it basically shows you words more frequently when you're first learning them.
Okay.
And then as you become more familiar with the word, it spaces out the intervals.
Okay.
So you might see the word again in a few days.
Right.
And then maybe in a week. And then maybe in a month.
Okay, that's cool.
And this helps to really cement the word in your long-term memory.
Yeah, because you're constantly being reminded of it.
Exactly.
As opposed to just like cramming a list of words and then forgetting them the next day.
Exactly.
I like the idea of keeping a vocabulary journal too.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So when you come across a new word, you can write it down, write down the definition.
Write down an example sentence.
Maybe even draw a picture.
Yes, anything that helps you to remember it.
And the source also suggests setting a goal of learning at least 5 new words a day.
That's a great goal.
Which, doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't.
But if you do that every day,
it adds up.
It really adds up.
Over a year, you will have learned over 1,800 new words.
That's amazing.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So it just shows the power of consistency. Even small actions can lead to big results
Right.
over time.
Okay, so we've talked about immersing ourselves, speaking every day, thinking in English.
Building our vocabulary.
Now let's talk about listening.
Okay.
So the source emphasizes active listening.
Yes, active listening is key.
What's the difference between active listening and passive listening?
Well, passive listening is when you're kind of just hearing the language in the background,
Okay.
but you're not really paying attention.
Like if I have the TV on
Exactly.
while I'm doing something else.
Right.
So you're getting some exposure,
You're still hearing the sounds.
but you're not really focusing on it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Active listening, on the other hand, is when you're really paying attention.
Okay.
You're focusing on the meaning. You're trying to understand every word.
You're trying to hear the pronunciation.
Exactly. You're really engaged with the language.
Oh.
And that makes a big difference in how much you actually learn.
So what are some ways that you can practice active listening?
Well, one technique that the source recommends is called shadowing.
Shadowing.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
So basically, shadowing is when you listen to an English speaker and you try to repeat what they are saying.
At the same time.
At the same time, exactly.
Right.
So you're basically trying to mimic their pronunciation, their intonation,
Oh, that's cool.
their rhythm.
Okay.
And you can do this with anything. You can do it with podcasts, movies, YouTube videos.
Why is shadowing helpful?
Well, it's helpful because it forces you to pay very close attention to the sounds of the language.
Right.
You have to really listen carefully in order to be able to repeat what you're hearing.
Okay.
And it also helps you to develop a better feel for the rhythm and flow of spoken English.
That's cool.
Yeah, and over time, it can actually improve your own speaking fluency.
Okay, so the key takeaway here is active listening can help you to improve your pronunciation and your fluency.
Yes, and it also helps to improve your comprehension.
All right, now let's move on to pronunciation.
Okay, pronunciation is so important.
Because if you can't pronounce words correctly, people won't understand you.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how big your vocabulary is
Yeah,
if people can't understand what you're saying.
right.
So the source gives some great tips on how to improve your pronunciation. One of the first things they suggest is to identify your own personal pronunciation challenges.
Oh, okay.
Are there any specific sounds that you find difficult to pronounce?
Yeah, like the villa sound
Yeah, that's a common one.
for non-native speakers.
Yeah, and once you've identified your challenges, you can focus on practicing those specific sounds.
Okay, so if I know I have trouble with the sound,
Yes.
how can I practice?
Well, there are a lot of great resources online that can help.
Yeah.
One that the source recommends is called Youglish.
Youglish.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
It's a really cool website
Okay.
where you can type in any word
Okay.
and it will show you video clips from YouTube of native speakers pronouncing that word.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can hear how the word is pronounced in different contexts
By different people.
by different people with different accents.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it gives you a really good sense of how the word is actually pronounced in real life.
And then there's another one called Forvo.
Forvo, yes, that one is great too.
It's similar.
It's similar. You can type in a word and hear native speakers pronounce it.
Okay, cool.
And they also have example sentences, which is really helpful.
Yeah.
So you can see how the word is used in context.
So now that I've heard it, how can I actually improve my pronunciation?
Well, the source recommends a few fun exercises.
Okay.
One of them is tongue twisters.
Oh, I love tongue twisters.
They're fun.
They're really hard.
They are challenging, but that's the point.
Right.
They're designed to help you practice specific sounds.
So can you give me an example of a tongue twister?
Of course, how about she sells seashells by the seashore?
She sells seashells by the seashore.
Exactly, or red lorry, yellow lorry.
Red lorry, yellow lorry. That's a good one.
Yeah, and the more you practice these, the easier it will become to pronounce those difficult sounds.
Okay.
Another great tip is to record yourself speaking English
Oh.
and then listen back to the recording.
Oh.
I know it can be a little cringy
Is
to hear your own voice,
Yeah.
but it's really helpful because it allows you to identify areas where you need to improve.
Right.
And you can also compare your pronunciation to a native speaker
Right.
to see how you measure up.
So the key takeaway here is that you can use these online resources and fun exercises
Yeah.
to improve your pronunciation.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Have fun with it.
Okay, so our next strategy is to write every day.
All right. Writing is a great way to improve your English.
It is.
And the source recommends doing it every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
So what are some ways that you can practice writing?
Well, one easy way is to keep a journal in English.
Yeah.
You can write about anything you want, your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences.
What you did that day.
Exactly.
Your plans for the future.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
It's just about getting your thoughts down on paper.
In English.
In English.
And you don't have to show it to anyone.
No, it's just for you.
Just for you.
It's a great way to just practice expressing yourself in writing.
I also like the idea of using English on social media.
Yeah, that's a fun way to practice.
Posting in English.
Yeah, or commenting on other people's posts.
Yeah.
Or even just texting friends in English.
You can even change the language on your phone to English.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're constantly being exposed to the language,
Right.
even when you're not actively studying.
If you want to take your writing to the next level,
Yes,
the source suggests joining online writing communities
that's a great idea.
or even starting a blog. And the great thing about this is that it gives you an audience for your writing.
Right, it gives you a reason to write.
Right.
And it also allows you to get feedback from other people.
Yeah, which can help you to improve.
Exactly.
So the key takeaway here is that consistent writing practice,
Yeah,
even if it's just for a few minutes each day,
even just a few sentences.
can really help you to improve your English.
Absolutely.
All right, now let's talk about grammar.
Okay, grammar can be a tricky one,
It can be.
but it's important.
It is important.
But the source emphasizes that you don't need to stress about it too much.
Okay.
Don't get bogged down in memorizing all the rules.
Right.
Because sometimes that can be overwhelming and it can actually make you feel less confident.
Right.
So what they recommend instead is to learn grammar naturally through reading and listening.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so as you're reading, pay attention to how sentences are structured.
Okay.
And when you come across a grammar rule that you don't understand,
Yeah.
try to figure out why it's being used that way. Ask yourself questions like, why is the verb in this tense? Why is this word in the plural?
Okay.
And the more you do this, the more you'll start to develop an intuitive understanding of how grammar works.
And there are also a lot of helpful resources online that can help you with grammar,
Oh, yeah, there are so many.
like websites, apps, even grammar check tools.
Yeah, like Grammarly
Yeah, Grammarly's a good
with
one.
a Hemingway editor.
Those can be really helpful
They can.
to identify mistakes that you're making.
Yeah, and they often give you explanations too.
Yeah.
So you can understand why you made the mistake and how to correct it.
So the key takeaway here is to practice grammar, but don't stress about it too much.
Yeah, focus on understanding the basic principles
Right.
and use the resources that are available to you.
All right, now let's talk about using English in real life.
Okay, this is where it all comes together.
It is.
You know, you can learn all the grammar and vocabulary you want,
Right.
but if you don't actually use the language in real life situations, it's not going to stick.
It's not going to be useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really important to find opportunities to practice your English in the real world.
So what are some examples of how you can do that?
Well, you can start with simple things like ordering food in English
Yeah.
or asking for directions.
Yeah, if you're traveling.
Yeah.
Or you can join online communities.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Where people speak English.
Yes.
Like forums or groups.
Or even online gaming communities.
Yeah.
That's a really fun way to practice.
People often speak English when they're playing games online,
They do.
even if they're from different countries.
Exactly.
So that's a good way to kind of like meet people from all over the world.
And practice your English at the same time.
And if you work with English speakers,
Yes.
definitely make an effort to speak with them in English.
Exactly. Even if it's just for a few minutes each day,
Yeah, it will really help you to improve.
it will.
Yeah. Okay, so the key takeaway here is to find opportunities to use English in real life,
Yeah. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
even if you make mistakes.
Exactly.
All right, now let's move on to our final strategy,
Okay, this one is important.
which is stay motivated and have fun.
Yeah. Learning a language can be challenging.
It can be.
So it's important to find ways to make it enjoyable.
Right, because if it's not fun, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the source recommends incorporating things that you enjoy into your English learning.
Okay, like what?
Like watching movies and TV shows that you find interesting.
Yeah.
Listening to music with English lyrics.
Yeah.
Playing video games in English. Reading books about topics that you are passionate about.
Yeah.
All of these things can help you to improve your English while also having fun.
I think setting goals is a good way to stay motivated as well.
It is, yeah.
So set small, achievable goals for yourself.
Yeah, don't try to do too much at once.
Right.
Break down your big goals into smaller steps.
Right.
And celebrate your achievements along the way.
Yeah, because if you're not celebrating your achievements,
Yeah.
it can be easy to get discouraged.
Right.
You know, like if you're not seeing any progress,
Yeah.
it can be like, why am I even doing this?
Exactly.
So it's important to like stop and be like, wow,
Yeah.
I've come so far.
I've learned so much.
Even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah, even if it's just one new word or one new grammar rule,
Right.
it's still progress and it's worth celebrating.
So the key takeaway here is to make English learning fun.
Yeah, find things that you enjoy.
And don't forget to celebrate your successes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've gone through all 10 strategies
We have
for improving your English.
some really great tips.
Yeah, I think these are all really good.
Yeah, and what I really like about this resource is that it emphasizes that learning a language is a journey. It's not a destination.
Yeah,
It's something that you continue to do throughout your life.
right.
And the more you practice, the better you'll become.
So for everyone listening out there, what strategy are you going to try first?
Yeah, which one resonates with you the most?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
We'd love to hear from you.
And until next time, keep practicing and keep having fun with English.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.